What's up, everybody? My name is Joe Brown. This is the Heresy Financial Show. Recently, we've seen many things that look like the world is de-dollarizing. Nigeria just made a move from demanding dollars for taxes to allowing Nigerian naira in those taxes. Russia is making deals with countries, accepting those countries' personal fiat currency for oil, asking for gold for payment for oil, asking for Bitcoin in payment for oil. They're accepting euros in payment for natural gas from China. All of these moves happening that are making people question, is the world de-dollarizing? Are these things meaningful or meaningless? Is this signal or is this noise? And I'm going to explain to you which ones are signal, which ones are noise, which ones to ignore, and what ones are important to look out for. Ready? Let's dive in. Over the last few years, we've seen a couple of celebrities, a couple of professional athletes, and a couple politicians come out and say, hey, we are going to be accepting or we are going to be requesting to get our entire salary paid in Bitcoin. Every time something like that happens, it makes the headlines. And this is the fundamental thing to understand about everything going on in the world right now. There is a categorical difference between getting paid in a currency versus getting something priced in that currency. When you go to your job, you get a paycheck in dollars. If you immediately turn around, use those dollars to buy Bitcoin, that is the exact same thing as you going to your employer and you're saying, I would like you to pay me in Bitcoin. They're not pricing your salary in Bitcoin. They're not saying we're going to pay you 2 Bitcoins a year. They're saying we're going to pay you $120,000 a year, and whatever the price of Bitcoin is when we give you the paycheck, we're just going to buy the equal amount of Bitcoin and send that Bitcoin to you. They are not committing to pricing something in Bitcoin. You're still priced in dollars. Your labor, your time is still priced in dollars. They're just paying you in whatever you are requesting, like Bitcoin. Exactly the same thing as you just taking your dollars and going and buying Bitcoin. So when we look around the world right now and we see all these things happening where Russia is saying, hey, we used to ask for dollars, but we can't get dollars anymore. So now we're going to just ask for our own currency, or we're going to let you pay in your own fiat currency, or maybe we'll ask for gold for oil, or maybe we'll ask for Bitcoin for oil. All of these things are only a little bit significant. It moves the needle a little bit, but not much. They're very potentially just temporary inconveniences where a country has to go get a different currency in order to buy something. It's still not changing how it's priced. The denominator is what matters. And that's what could change things. I made a video a couple of days ago about that Russia pegged their currency to gold. Really, it's not a full peg, but it looks like they might be trying to move that direction. What would actually move the needle, though, is if they say, hey, we are going to price our oil in gold. You can pay in whatever you want. We're going to ask for gold. You can pay in whatever you want. The price is in gold. You have to give us a specific number of ounces of gold in order to get a specific amount of oil. It doesn't matter what the gold price is in terms of dollars or euros or yen. It doesn't matter what the oil price is in terms of dollars or euros or yen. We are going to price, as I'm Russia saying this, we're going to price oil in terms of gold. It takes a specific number of ounces of gold to get a specific amount of oil, regardless of the fiat prices. And that's what moves the needle. If you see employers come out and say, we'll hire you for a Bitcoin a year, that moves the needle. That's a big deal because the company is then committing to paying in Bitcoin regardless of the price. And they're not receiving Bitcoin, so they have to go out onto the open market and they have to source that Bitcoin, and the price of that Bitcoin might change dramatically against them, not in their favor. Might change in their favor, but then that wouldn't be a very favorable outcome for the employee, so the employee might not agree to that either. So at this point, when you see somebody accepting payment for something, payment in something, that is not as big of a deal as something being priced in something. That moves the needle. And still, at this point, things are priced in dollars, even around the world. Even with all these trends, even with all these things happening that look like the world is de-dollarizing, things are still priced in dollars. And once we start to see things priced, denominated in a different currency, in gold, in Bitcoin. That is going to be the signal. That is a true sign of de-dollarization. And now I'd like to take a quick moment to tell you about today's video sponsor, Vaulted. Vaulted is the secret to secure gold savings. They've developed a technology infrastructure designed to optimize gold investment strategies. They're reshaping the precious metals supply chain, and they've expanded access to allow you access to the world's most trusted universal currency. So what is Vaulted? Well, it is the best way for individuals and institutional investors to acquire physical gold. They've got the lowest cost structure in the industry. You get personal advising from their precious metals experts, and they have an extremely simple, easy to use, web-based user interface and app. It's so simple that it takes less than 1 minute to sign up for an account. And I know this is true because I use Vaulted myself, and it was absolutely so easy to set up an account. Now, the reason why I like to use a service like Vaulted is because number one, it gives you an extremely easy and automated way to build up your gold savings. On their website, they've got something called Vault Plan, which allows you to automatically invest in gold at the lowest cost available every single month or every other week. And then at any point that you desire, you can request physical delivery and they will immediately start the process of shipping you physical gold wherever you want it shipped to. And if you've saved up enough to own an entire bar yourself, you are at that point assigned a serial number, and when you request delivery, you will get that exact serial numbered bar that you had allocated in your legal ownership and your possession. They have one-to-one allocation, no pooling, no leasing. Your gold is your gold. Turn gold into an easy-to-use savings account by signing up for Vaulted and start an automated Vaulted savings plan in order to start putting your money into gold. And whenever you want, whenever you get enough gold in there, you can request this gold to be physically delivered to your address on demand, and all the while you're getting it at the lowest cost in the industry. Sign up for Vaulted today with the link in the description below. And finally, the reason for this, the reason why it's such a big deal is because the preferred denominator, what people are pricing things in, usually across time. I'm reading the Fiat Standard by Salability and Misc right now. Fantastic book. I highly recommend it. He talks about the difference between salability across space and salability across time. And so whenever you're looking at a form of money, when something is priced in something, you're going to be wondering, okay, is this going to store my value? This money, is it going to store my value across time? If I keep my savings in cash, and I can buy, let's say, 1 month of expenses with this amount of cash, am I still going to be able to pay for 1 month of expenses a year from now with that same amount? Or am I going to have to continue to contribute more labor into that savings pool just to keep up my purchasing power? Is there kind of like a leak of purchasing power with this savings vehicle? Another form of money you might look at and say, okay, is this going to preserve my purchasing power across space? This is one of the things that Salability and Misc shows why fiat eventually replaced gold, because it didn't preserve its purchasing power as well across space. You can very easily take a massive amount of wealth in paper across space, across the world, especially with central settlement with central banks and batch settlement. You can have a fiat system. You can take wealth really far, really cheaply. If you take physical gold, you have to pay the travel expenses and the security, and depending on how much gold it is, you have to pay, and you lose a lot of your purchasing power as you travel with it. And so when you're looking at a store of value, something to be a medium of exchange, both parties are looking at that and saying, hey, is this something that we can agree to that each party's selfish? Is it going to be, detrimental to me? So back to the Bitcoin example of an employer and an employee. If both parties expect the price of Bitcoin to go down, that means the value of Bitcoin relative to everything else goes down. You would look at that and you would say, as an employer, you would say, I would like to pay you denominated in Bitcoin, Because the employer will get, they'll increase their purchasing power. They'll be able to, it'll get easier to pay you to be their employee over time. You as the employee will look at that and you'll say, well, no way, because then the value of my labor goes down over time if you both expect the price of Bitcoin to go down. So one of you is not going to agree to pricing that contract in Bitcoin. Now, if both of you expect the price of Bitcoin to go up, meaning that the value of Bitcoin relative to everything else goes up, then the employee, you as the employee, you'll say, yes, I would like to get paid in Bitcoins, like 1 Bitcoin a year or 2 Bitcoins a year. You would be okay with that. Then the employer would be looking at that and saying, no, we're not going to do that because then we're going to get screwed. We're not going to accept that because then we're losing purchasing power. It gets harder to get our hands on that Bitcoin over time because it gets more valuable relative to everything else. So the employee would win, but the employer would not. And so whenever two parties are coming to an agreement on what to price something in, especially for a longer term contract, they're going to look for something that benefits them the most. They're going to arrive at the middle ground and they're going to say, okay, well then we'll price it in this because that is kind of right in the middle. It's a compromise where it's not going to be a wealth transfer from one of us to another. We're both basically going to get what we ask for and what we want over time. It's not going to end up screwing one of us, or the highest certainty that it won't end up screwing one of us. And more today, we are seeing countries and institutions and people around the world realizing that the more they accept dollars and the more they save dollars, the more they're losing purchasing power over time. It's wealth transfer from the lenders to the borrowers, from the savers to the spenders. And so nobody wants to do this anymore. So the world is slowly moving away. We're seeing little signs of it, but we're not seeing massive signs. We're not seeing signal yet. And at some point, it's a matter of when, not a matter of if, somebody will start to price something in a better store of value, in a better medium of exchange. Somebody will price something in that, and that contract will be much more beneficial to both parties. Right now, we haven't seen anything major happen yet, but it's coming. And when it happens, that will be signal, that will be big news. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions about that, please let me know in the comments section below. As always, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.